Hello everybody and welcome along to Sportsland Sugo for our second race of the first weekend of Japan Cup for 2025. What a beautiful venue to go racing and to kick off our championship once with a nice strong grid of 18 vehicles across 3 different classes. And an entertaining race one earlier this morning. This is the afternoon race, which was threatened by heavy rain showers, and indeed qualifying was raining yesterday, but it's beautiful this afternoon. Sportsland Sugo is the first round of a 4-round 8-race championship. Fuji is our next race with over 55 GT3 cars forecast to enter across 2 different championships. Okayama also a power tour event, and then Sugo as Suzuka, the last of me.
Japan Cup が今シーズンも東北宮城県スポーツランドスゴーに帰ってきました。2025年シリーズはついに4年目。着実に進化を重ね GT ファンの間で確かな存在感を築いてきました。開幕の舞台を彩るのは GT3、GT4、GTC といったトップカテゴリーのマシーンたち。名だたる GT ブランドが集結し、目が離せないシーズンの幕がいよいよ上がります。今シーズンもグリッドに戻ってきた前澤レーシング。ドライバーはご存知、エンターテイナー前澤友作選手とベテラン横溝直樹選手のコンビです。今年もひときわ異彩を放つこのチームは、マシンやピットのカラーリングにも細部までこだわりが詰まっています。
とにかく赤と白、紅白、日本で紅白って言えばお祝い事の時に使う色ですから、それを意識しました。もちろん気合は100点満点なんですけど、レース人生まだ2年目なんで、安全運転心がけながら自分のベストを尽くしたいと思います。
本当にね、前澤さん2年目なんですよ。でもここまですごいいいペースで来てるので、常に上位を目指して、そしてやっぱり優勝できたらいいなっていうところですけど、我々はやっぱりそのチャレンジャーなんで、経験豊富なね先輩たちに肩を借りるつもりで、胸を借りるつもりで頑張りたいと思います。
頑張ります。
K チューンズレーシング96号車に乗り込むのは国内トップクラスの実力を誇る福住二玲選手。豊富な経験と圧倒的なセンスを武器に、初戦からすでに大きな注目を集めています。
そうですね、このカテゴリーに、出るように、決まったのがまだ2月3月ぐらいで、ほとんど僕もこの車両にはまだ乗ってない状態ですし、でも本当に貴重な経験ができると思いましたので、しっかりそのお話をいただいた時には嬉しいなと思いましたし、本当に開幕戦今週行われるということで非常に楽しみです。
昨年このスゴーで2勝を挙げ、圧倒的な強さを見せたビンゴレーシング。今シーズンはマシーンをフェラーリにスイッチし、さらなる高みを目指す。フル参戦となる笹原右京選手とともに新たな挑戦が始まった。その覚悟と進化に迫ります。
都合はやっぱりオールドスクールサーキットってよく言われて、ランオフエリアが非常に少なく、本当コースアームも狭いので、ただスピードレンジは非常に高いので、その限界ギリギリをやっぱ引き出すのがすごいこの GT3 の車では非常に大事で、特に近年の GT3 はやっぱすごい車がレベルアップしていて、その中でのプロ同士の中でも最後のコンマ1秒、あるいはそれ以下を引き出すにはもうコースを目いっぱい使わないといけないので、このスゴは特にそれが一番顕著に出るので、その辺が非常に楽しみです。
出るからにはチャンピオンを取りたいと思っていて、1戦、2戦半ぐらいはちょっと僕が足を引っ張りそうなんですけども、最終的には自分もポテンシャルをしっかり出して、ライバルに勝ちたいなと思っています。
That gives you a nice big clue as to exactly the characters that we have here in Sugo for this first weekend of the Japan Cup for 2025 and the festivities and celebrations as we come to expect in Asia, absolutely in full force down there on the grid. It may be just the Japan Cup without its partner, the GT World Challenge Asia, but no less effort is given. And indeed, when it does join the GT World Challenge Asia Championship than it really is a festival of GT3 racing. Next round in Fuji on the 13th of July. Highlights from race 1 then earlier on today, and it was the team Up Garage 18 Ferrari versus 24 Max Racing into turn 1. Nice clean first couple of corners from all of our 18 cars, but a small mistake for the Akita-driven 18 just here meant the door was open for Max Racing and the Mercedes to come down the inside and take the lead of the race. About 15 minutes in, and Mr. Mizawa himself running wide onto the very wet grass and looping his Ferrari into the gravel trap, avoided the barriers, but unfortunately us into yellow flag situation, a full course yellow, but everyone pitting under that, and for some reason some cars going a lot longer in the pits than others, and the order completely changing. So the 24 Mercedes losing the lead of the race and dropping down to something like 5th or 6th position once he regained his position on the circuit. We then had a safety car. We then went back to racing conditions and had a great battle, not only for 3rd position, this was the battle for 3rd between the 7-7 car and the 296 car, but this was the move for the lead. Bingo Racing down the inside, Yuko Sasahara using the traffic to his advantage and getting his Ferrari to the head. From there, he disappeared, and Bingo Racing would be on course for another victory in Sugo. Further back, recovery drive for a team Up Garage, trying to go around the outside here, but ran a little bit wide, and not only let the 7-7 Porsche back through, but then Max Racing gaining a position as well. But no such squabbling at the head. It was easy sailing for Ukyo Sasahara once he had passed the 296 and ended up taking victory by something like 5.5 seconds. A great way to start 2025 for himself and Takai. So indeed, with the first round of the championship, 25 points for the win, 18 for second, that going to car 45, which is Ponas Racing, and then 15 points for our 3rd place finisher, the car 296. Champions from last year, down in 7th position with a lackluster first race for KTM's Racing.
それではポールポジションスタートの笹原右京選手にお話を聞いていきたいと思います。笹原選手、先ほどのレース1では見事優勝を果たしまして、このレース2でもポールポジションスタート絶好調かと思うんですけれども、改めてコンディションも変わった中で今いかがですか？
はい、そうですね、気温も路面温度もすごい高くなりましたし、条件としてはみんな結構きつくなるかなと思います。ただ、僕らは前線優勝したことによって、15秒のサクセスペナルティがあるので、全然そう簡単にはうまくいかないと思うし、ものすごい、ね、後ろはレベル高い選手たちなので、でもこのスゴを、ね、楽しんで走れたらと思います。
得意とするスゴで、素晴らしい戦い期待しております。
はい、ありがとうございます。頑張ります。
So I just asked about the conditions have changed compared to the race 1. The temperature's going high and the track conditions are very high. Obviously, he is a little concerned about that. And the success penalty, because of the win of race 1, he and his team will have to consider about that a lot. But still, Sugo is one of his favorite circuits. He's super confident to win another race. Back to you.
Time in the pit for that number 9 Bingo Racing LM Corsa. 10 seconds for the car that finished second, which is 45, and 296 will have 5 seconds extra in the pits. So 15 seconds extra to overhaul. That is going to be very tough for Bingo Racing, but they were able to do it last year when they took victory in both race 1 and race 2, so no harm in doing it again, although competition definitely ramped up in the Japan Cup for this season, a highly popular championship, and very much the performance of our teams has massively increased. Love these cultural performances that we have in GT World Challenge Asia and Japan Cup at the head of the field in every single round that we go to. We don't see this in Europe. We don't see this in Australia, but we do put on a really great show in Asia. And it all adds to that feeling of being part of something special, part of an event. It's not just turning up at an empty racetrack and doing a couple of laps. You really feel like you are part of something greater. And you are, because SRO and the Japan Cup really making waves in the world of national Japanese racing that has already got so much in terms of opportunities for racing. But now Japan Cup equal to the very best. And that is proven by the grid. That is proven by the performance of the cars and the names and celebrities that we have on our grid. Whether it be Mr. Maezawa himself, a Japanese billionaire who has spent money, for instance, on traveling to space, or the professional drivers that we have from those that have participated in Le Mans 24 Hours, or our champions perhaps in Super GT, which is for many years the staple of Japanese motorsport. And the popularity proven by the Power Tour events, where we have GT World Challenge Asia and Japan Cup alongside each other. Fuji next round here.
さあ続きまして6番グリッドからスタートする、45号車のポノスレーシングケイコッツォリーノ選手にお話聞いていきたいと思います。6番グリッドというスタートも素晴らしいんですけれども、まずは何よりもレース1表彰台おめでとうございます。素晴らしかったです。
Thank you very much. ありがとうございます。Yeah, we had a bad start in the beginning yesterday. We weren't where we were supposed to be. So we changed a few things on the car, and now we're back to where we're supposed to be. And I'm glad to have made the first race a pretty good one. Now race 2, we have some time penalties for the first success, but yeah, we'll see. I think I'm pretty confident to do another podium.
We're super excited, Kay. And to your Japanese fans, 日本語でもお願いします。
そうですね、いつもポノスレーシングの応援してくれる皆様ありがとうございます。今回ポノスレーシングとしてスーパー GT 以外としてね、やっぱこうやって SRO のレースできて本当とても光栄ですので、GT もそうですけど、こちらの SRO も非常にハイレベルなバトルなので、いいレースをしてファンの皆様に貢献したいと思います。
日本のフェラーリといえばケイコッツォリーノ、楽しみにしています。頑張ってください。ありがとうございます。
Cozzolino, even. Kei Cozzolino, Italian born, but all of his career in Japan, and actually with the Japanese passport as well, and highly bilingual, like our Emily down there on the grid. The 45 is his car, shares that with Tsujiko. It was there and thereabouts in his stint. Remember, we've flipped the stints. So in race 1, we had the AM drivers followed by the pros. In race 2, we have the pros followed by the AMs, for those that have pros in the Pro-Am category, or indeed the Silver Am category of GT4. And so it's going to be interesting. I always quite enjoy the first races, because the pros take over the car in the second half of the race, and then they try and maximize their performance. In this race, in the second race, they need to get their car to the point where they hand it over to their gentleman driver, and so they tend to have to be just a little bit more cautious and not quite as aggressive with the way they drive. That's the theory, but in practice sometimes it doesn't really work out like that. Back down to Emily on the grid then.
はい、続きまして8番グリッドより本日スタートしますのがセブンセブンレーシングの藤波清太選手です。先ほどのレース1では惜しくも表彰台を逃しまして悔しい思いもあるかと思うんですが、でもレース2も意気込みぜひお聞かせいただきたいです。
そうですね、ちょっとねやっぱセットアップだったりとか、特に BOP っていう部分で今回すごい非常にきつい、正直フォルシェでも、さっきのレースすごいポジションアップできましたし、チーム力で勝てたんで、このレースもね、ハンデある号車もいるんで、とにかくここはねちゃんとポイント取って表彰台目指して頑張って ちゃんと完走できるように頑張りたいです。非常にね激しいレースなんで、ちょっとまたスーパー GT とは違ったね雰囲気ですし、熱いねバトルもね繰り広げられると思うんで、はい、冷静に真摯にいきたいと思います。はい。
楽しみにしてます。So I'd like to translate that. Kyoto Fujinami, earlier on the race one, he had a very hard battle aiming for the podiums, but the BOP and some situations with the car, the setups, he felt a little bit of handicap, but he felt like the pace was very good for the race pace. And when you think about there's going to be some success penalties from race one to race two, he is very confident for aiming for the BOP. There is some hard racing going on here. It's completely a different kind of atmosphere of Super GT, but he is very excited to have some fierce battles once again. And right next to them is car number 555, Maezawa Racing. In race one, they did have a spin, but as you can see, the car is in completely good shape right now. The mechanics had a super good job. I had a quick chat with the drivers, but Maezawa, he kind of seemed like he pushed a little bit too much, but now he knows the limits of the car. So they are both super confident to have a fierce battle once again in race two. Back to you.
The tiniest of twitches, a little bit of oversteer, correction keeps the car on the road. But if that was any other racetrack, such as European or even Fuji, something like that, then he would have got away with it. But unfortunately, because of the nature of Sugo with the grass and the gravel so close, it meant that he was instantly outside of the white lines, and outside the white lines is grass and gravel rather than tarmac, and so he was unable to save it. The grass very slippery too, and round the car went. No contact with the barrier, and to be honest, not a huge amount for the mechanics to need to do. Just clear out all the gravel, that anything's been caught by any ducting. Maybe check the tracking, but in all honesty, that shouldn't have been too much work for the Maezawa guys, and I'm sure Mr. Maezawa will be very, very frustrated with himself, but ultimately the tiniest of touches, a little correction, and just running out of road, and that is so easily done. I speak from experience. Excited to see Naoki Yokomiso in that 555 car. Didn't get to see him in race one, of course, because the car was spun in the first stint. So what can they do on this one? Again, another pretty mixed up grid. It was raining in qualifying. And whilst the pro drivers certainly able to deal with that much, much better, it still has created an interesting grid down there.
さあ続いてはですね、9番グリッドからスタートするカナバ1チームマキナの、皆さんにお話聞いていきたいと思うんですけれども、鈴木選手先ほどの、レース1では見事ねクラス優勝を果たしまして、レース2に向けては今意気込みのほどいかがでしょうか。
はい、初めてのスタート担当なので慎重につなぎます。はい。はい。
So it's actually his very first ever starting stint. He's never had a starting stint before, so he's really excited, a little bit nervous, but he will work hard for the victory once again. Back to you.
Hirokazu Suzuki, the second AM for Team Machina this year. It was Uematsu doing everything last year in the number one McLaren it was back then. Now it is a Ferrari, and Uematsu sharing with Suzuki, and therefore Mr. Suzuki is obligated to start this one because Uematsu started the last one. Doesn't necessarily have to start in this race because the because it's an AM pairing, they do have the ability to choose, but obviously the team deciding that Uematsu started race one, qualified in qualifying one. Poor old Mr. Suzuki goes up against the pros. So hard work, perhaps, in the first couple of laps. Got to keep his calm, got to keep his cool. His Tiger Woo, Porsche Carrera Cup Japan. And what's he pointing at? All of those bears above his roof. I wonder what that signifies. But Bingo Racing also running that to Porsche in the GTC category. 2 GTC category cars, one a 991 category car, so that's the older Porsche Carrera Cup spec machine, and then the 992 is the newer one that you see in Porsche Carrera Cup Japan right now. A few differences. It's still, you can't literally take the car from Porsche Carrera Cup Japan and blonk it on this grid with a different set of tyres. There are some fine differences, but the idea being that this is a platform for those cars because there are so many, because that championship Porsche Carrera Cup across the world is so popular. I think there's 13 different possibilities to race in Porsche Carrera Cup before you get to the specialist Super Cup, which is kind of the one that supports the Formula One World Championship at most events. Here's a look at the Sportsland Sugo circuit. Turn 6 is where the problem areas have been in race 1. Just 3.5 kilometers in length. Our lap record tumbled in race 1, in fact, so it's no longer that 120.7 that the graphics suggest. It's down in the 19s now, thanks to our lap record tumbling in race 1, and conditions even better this afternoon, so I wonder whether we're going to get a better lap record again. Let's have a look at what it looks like inside the cockpit of the 296 machine.
こんにちは、一つ山、with コンズレーシングの、川端慎太郎です。では、スポーツランドスゴーのドライバーズアイ、やっていきましょう。まず1コーナーは上りながらのブレーキです。右コーナー2つ続くので円を描くように走行します。で2コーナー立ち上がりますとすぐに左コーナーになりますので、右側に立ち上がって、左コーナーを大きく走るのがポイントです。で4コーナー、上りながらコーナリングです。でこの先、狭い S 字があるので姿勢を整えて、ここすごく難しいです。狭いところを通りながら、頑張って駆け上がっていきます。で右コーナーまた2つ続きます。でハイポイントレインボー、ここが高低差一番高いところですね。で、この先ストレートなので立ち上がり、非常にシビアです。で下りながらのストレート、この先馬の背コーナーです。曲がりながらブレーキですがまっすぐ止めることを意識します。でここヘアピンコーナーを抜けまして、この先、スゴー名物の SP コーナーですね。ここ少しのブレーキングで曲がらないといけないので、とても難しくまだ狭いです。非常にスリリングで楽しいコーナーですね。はい、最後最終コーナーです。ここは高低差12メートルを一気に駆け上がっていきますが、クラッシュが多く非常に危険なコーナーなので、スゴーに魔物が住んでいると言われる、由来のコーナーでもあるかと思います。でまた1コーナーでオーバーテイクでも非常に重要なコーナーなので、最終コーナー非常に、気をつけて走行します。
A busy challenge for our GT3 drivers, there is no doubt about that. The undulating nature of the circuit, and it's pretty twisty as well. And as we found out with Maezawa in race 1, any mistake gets well punished. Now, the good thing is we've had a whole day where we have not had rain, we've got a decent breeze, and it is dry. So we are not expecting any rain in the race. And hopefully those runoff areas that we saw catch out Maezawa are not as wet as they were this morning. Because maybe he would have got away with it had it been bone dry. Onboard cameras. 45 carries an onboard camera for Ponos Racing. That's Kei Cosolino. I've got to get that right. Cosolino carries our onboard camera. We've also got an onboard in the 555, which will be Naoki Yokomizo driving in the first stint. Got a few rows on row 4, isn't he? So not a great qualifying, therefore, from Yokomizo in the wet condition. And our 39 Toyota Gazoo Racing Indonesia GT4 winner from the first race carries an onboard camera as well. You can watch those onboard cameras remotely or isolated on our channel on YouTube. If you want to just follow along with a single car, or stay with us on the main feed. We can have both. Here is the grid then for our second race here at Sugo. GT4 AM pole position for the K-Tunes 97, the male-female lineup. Silver AM pole is with Toyota Gazoo Racing and their Supra. Pole for GTC is Bingo Racing's Tiger Wu, winner in race 1. Machina have the GT3 AM pole position, and then on pole itself is Bingo Racing with LM Corsa. The Pro-Am pole position, but also pole in the race. Nico Sasahara, the man to beat around Sugo, there is no doubt, but how hard will that 15-second penalty fall for them? Alongside the 18, another good qualifying session at the Team Up Garage, and then the 24 of Max Racing on road 2. Takagi, who hopefully will have a better run of things in this race versus race 1, our winner from last year in the 98. 296 lines up alongside K. Cozzolino in the 45. There's Yokomizo in the 555, Maizawa Racing alongside 666, the 77 team. And there then our pole in GT3 AM alongside the second of the GT3 AM cars. Third one in run-up Nissan and in 11th position, and then the first of the GTC cars. Interestingly, then we have the first of the GT4 category cars, second GTC car 15, and last GT3 car at the tail of the field. The Lexus obviously didn't get a lap in Q2 because it was crashed in Q1, and so big work from Fukuzimu to get himself through the field. We saw no real progress from that Lexus in race 1. They really struggled, but certainly 5 or 6 places should be easy pickings for the K-Tunes number 96, because he's got AM drivers ahead of him, and he is a Pro-Am, Neri. We are going for a second formation lap, as is customary in Japan Cup and GT World Challenge Asia. The idea to get temperature and help get temperature and confidence into the cars, so that you're not sending them unprepared down into turn 1. And turn 1 tricky here, as we heard from our driver's eye. I like that description, like drawing a circle. Turns 1 and 2 are linked together, a right, and actually very well behaved from our AM competitors in race 1. And the pros will know this is where they will need to make the biggest effort. Best opportunity for making up decent positions. Through the final turn then, Ukuya Sasahara with Kobayashi to his outside, with Motojima and Takagi on row 2. Plenty of Ferrari 296s in the field, as we already spoke about, and then a splattering of other vehicles to enjoy. The Mercedes was strong, should have done better, but the pit stop was confused, as with the 18 in race 1. Can they make amends in this second one? It's nice and slow through the grid hatchings. A little bit of a gap on row 3 by the looks of things. And now we accelerate, and now we're underway. And Sasahara is going to have a good inside line, but we're going 4 wide, further back, and a big squeeze, and that's put one in the wall, that's put another in the gravel. And I think, unfortunately, Maizawa Racing being rather aggressive. The 7.7 Porsche getting out of the gravel. Is there 3 cars facing the wrong direction? 45 also being tagged into a spin. So 2 of our onboard camera cars. We'll have to dissect that in a moment's time, especially with our onboard cameras. But we were trying to go 4 wide. And oh dear, Takagi also involved, our champions from last year. So Sasahara leads, Kobayashi second, 24 of Motojima in 3rd position. But then quite a few cars behind that turned around. How much damage do we have? And all cars able to continue? That will be the question. Takagi from 4th position on the grid, the last car to get back going again. I do think he is now moving. Battle reformed between Kobayashi and Motojima. They seem to be wanting to share the same piece of tarmac throughout the first race, and again they are in exactly the same situation. Again, Kawabata it is that's made up a position, the 296 up to 4th. 4 positions gained for Suzuki in the number 1. Oh, and wide for Kobayashi. And that's 2 positions lost. Is that a puncture perhaps? Or was that just a mistake from him? Meanwhile, Sasahara doing exactly what he did in race 1 and disappear off into the distance. 5 in the pits then. Why is that? We didn't see them have the issue, did we? Now, let's have a look at this race. Look at the 4 cars going alongside each other for 5th position. Yokomizo moves across. Okay, so and then Teg's front left. So that's where he's got the puncture. On board with the 45. He decides to go left here. That makes, because Takagi's had a slow start, that makes it 4 wide. And then already being part spun by the squeeze. Maezawa Racing, we're very lucky to have all the cars back onto circuit. But I'm afraid it looks like that Ferrari is going to be spending more time in the pits than just a simple change of tyre. Could well be a bent steering arm on that front left corner, because that was the one that made the contact. So now we're going to get some recovery drives, aren't we? We're going to see Fujinami, Cosolino, they're 10th and 11th right now. And what about Takagi? Maybe we have lost our champions from last year. Yokomizo in the pits, but no, Takagi's not in the pits. He's just a long way back. There's the Maezawa Racing Ferrari back out onto circuit. So now we need a safety car to bring those guys back into the mix. Otherwise, it's going to be a very long afternoon for the 555. Sasahara doing Sasahara things by clearing off 3 seconds to the good over this little battle. Now, where is team? Kobayashi has dropped 2.2 seconds off the back of this. Now, considering he was fighting with the 24, that's a bit bizarre to me. Let's see what the lap time is at the end of this lap. It was a 1:25 with his lurid wide moment to 1:21.6 now. And actually that compares to the Mercedes and Ferrari ahead of him. Sasahara, a 1:20.9. Fast for the number 9. He knows that if they want to win this race, they need to build a 15-plus second advantage because they've got that success penalty from race 1. Interestingly, Bingo Racing won both races last year in Sugo and then won nothing more. Then K-Tunes got themselves sorted for Sugo, for Suzuka, for Okayama, for Fuji, and we never saw the Corvette on the top step of the podium afterwards. Right, Kawabata and Motojima. Second position this battle. Mercedes versus Ferrari. Great to have Max Racing with us, the Super GT team. Missed a year of motorsport last year. But Motojima, the Super GT 300 champion, that's the equivalent of our GT3 category, effectively. Did that in a Lamborghini. But it gives you the kind of idea of the level of the drivers that we have in this championship. Kobayashi pushing on. This is his mistake, and it was just a wiggle. Obviously, Team Up Garage have not quite got that car sorted, because we saw in race 1 it have a wiggle in terms of Akita, and that gave away a couple of positions. And once again, same issue in the early phase of the race, whilst the temperature is still building in the tyre. Now, last lap was better than the two cars ahead, so he's starting now to close back into Otojima and Kawabata. Sasahara leads, 4.3 now the advantage. But at least these two aren't squabbling. At least these two aren't really compromising each other's pace. There is Sasahara. And waiting for the next two to go over the line. This is the leader in the GT3 AM category. So first start for Suzuki, and he saw the seas part ways, didn't he? Because 4 or 5 cars in front of him disappearing off into the gravel, and he suddenly found himself in 5th position overall. They won't be really too bothered by that. They are the AM category car. They know they're right. They are racing pros. And so really they'll be just comparing themselves to the car 71, the Mercedes of Akiland behind, and Suzuki doing a good job in comparison. And in fact, still, they are ahead of 4 cars running in the GT3 Pro-Am category. The Lexus that started at the tail of the field, and then 3 cars that we saw involved in that first corner skirmish. I can tell you that the 555 is back in the pits, so that's disappointing from the Maizawa racing machine. Much closer in GT4 in this one. There is our leader, the 39 Supra, but the Porsche right behind, keeping him honest, and it won't be long before we've got the GT3 cars trying to get past them. And that, the closer they are, the more they're battling, the tougher it is for the GT3s to get through traffic. They have already cleared 1 car, Betty Chen, I think, has been passed. There is Tiger Wu leading GTC by, well, he's got a couple of cars advantage, a couple of cars between himself and car 17, the High Point Racing Porsche, as we saw in race 1. Tiger Wu, the stronger of the two. Real disappointment down at Maizawa Racing. Look forward to seeing them back with a bigger grid of potentially 25 GT3 cars in Fuji in July. It hasn't gone the way. Sometimes that is motor racing. Sometimes you just don't know why. Let's go back down to Emily, who's got an update from the pits. What's going on down there?
放送席、カナダ555マイザーレーシングなんですけれども、先ほどのオープニングのラップで、接触があった際に、足回りにどうやらダメージが、結構あったみたいで、タイヤを変えたら、そのまま走行できるか試してみたところ、タイヤを変えても、ちょっともう走行がハンドリングを曲げてももうしっかり曲がらないということで危険と判断して、リタイアをするようです。So I'll repeat that report in English now. Maizar Racing, car number 555. They did have an accident at the opening lap. Not just the tires, but now the steering is not working very well, so they decided it is dangerous to drive going on, so they are retiring. Back to you.
Yeah, as we suspected, here's the onboard from the 555. And look, he just basically just comes across, perhaps unaware of how many cars were to his left-hand side. And actually, there was a fair clunk from the 666 into the barrier there. I'm surprised that that's straight, because that was a big hit. But I think if there was if the 555 was still running, then there may well be a penalty coming that car's way, because he just really was unaware that there were 3 cars to his left-hand side, and he tried to get over to take the racing line, but there was no room. There were cars in the way. And when he sees it from the outside, as a professional driver, he will know exactly what he's done. But whilst in the car, probably less aware. That's that classic thing of needing to be a NASCAR driver for about 5 seconds, where somebody's spotting and telling you what you've got around you. I mean, completely possible, I suppose. We do have spotters in other forms of racing. Indeed, the Spa 24 Hours, for instance, some of the bigger teams will have spotters because the circuit is so busy, will be busier than ever in the 2025 edition, with 76 cars on the 7-kilometre circuit. Look how busy it is here. We've got 8 vehicles on track. It's a 3.5-kilometre circuit. Double the length is Spa-Francorchamps, but quadruple the amount of vehicles. It's going to be spectacular. In 2 weeks' time, that's the Spa 24 Hours coming up. And that is the reason why we get a little bit of a break in our Asian calendar. Next weekend is the resumption of the Intercontinental GT Challenge at the Nürburgring 24 Hours, before then going to Spa for their 3rd round. And then from Spa, it'll be all focus on the brand new venue for 25, which is Suzuka. And Japan Cup will be supporting Suzuka. Now, here is that 666 Porsche we saw into the wall and gets cleanly past the Ferrari, number 1. The Lexus has already done 25 seconds back is the Lexus. In 6th position. The 45 already gone through that traffic, so Kei Cozzolino in 5th position. Fukuzumi is 6th in the Lexus, and Fujinami has just got up to 7th position. So that leaves the 98 Ferrari of Takagi down in 10th spot. And the progress again not being made in the same way that we were so used to seeing last year at K-Tunes Ferrari, especially in the hands of Takagi, just disappearing up the road. But we've not seen that. We're seeing it from Sasahara. Interestingly, though, the gap has started to stabilize from Sasahara. He has the best lap of the race, but 4-5 tenths of a second slower than our race 1 best lap, and in fact lap record that was set by Sasahara in race 1. But it's almost as though this little battle of Motojima and Kawabata has focused on keeping the gap small to the number 9 rather than fighting with themselves. Kobayashi back with them, just about, slightly larger gap, 1.3 seconds after that error. And then there's 13 back to Cozzolino, who also has a success penalty to take into the pits. We've still got 7 more minutes before pit opens. That those in Pro-Am lineups will wait until the end of the window. The window is 10 minutes or 9:59 long. They'll wait to the end of the window to get themselves changed to their amateur driver, and then they'll go back out, because that limits the amount of time the slower driver is in the car. Watching Cozzolino here, the Italian-born Japanese national who's racing, well, been over here so long he raced in Formula Nippon, which is a precursor to Super Formula, the single-seater series. Such has been his experience. A cannot believe that that 666 Porsche is straight. It was a big hit into the wall, but obviously tyre barrier rather than concrete, that would have helped a bit. But Fujinami up to 7th position. It'll be more, I suppose, when the amateur driver jumps in and goes, oh, hang on a second, that doesn't feel like it should. That will be when the punishment is done, whereas the pro drivers would just drive around the issue a bit better. It'll unnerve an amateur driver much more. There's the second of our GT3 AM category cars, the Akiland Mercedes. And plus points to Akiland, much like to Max Racing, for bringing a brand that is not a Ferrari. Ten different brands of GT3 car available to you across the world. Clearly the Ferrari, both from a prestige point of view, but also apparently from a functionality point of view, because it's one of the newer cars, one of the more favoured. Let's get a Ferrari would have been the discussion in many a race factory over the winter. This Nissan, for instance, long time homologated. And you compare the two, and just the technology and the way that GT3 racing has progressed, it's just so very, very different. Manufacturers, though, do go through different routes. For instance, Aston Martin brought out a new Vantage at the start of last year, but hasn't become a particular customer favourite, even though Aston Martin, as a brand that you want to represent, the car built very much for the racer. It's a little bit edgy. It's not as comfortable. One little thing, for instance, in the Porsche you can do is move the steering rack as well as the seat. So you can push forward and back and up and down like you can do in pretty much every road car now. The Aston Martin, you can go up and down, but you can't go in and out without undoing bolts. And so basically, it's a case of find the compromise between your two drivers and it gets fixed in that position. Why? Because the system to make it be super flexible is weaker, potentially would break, and also more heavy. It's a race car, so you want to make it light as possible. So Aston Martin doing away with some of the comforts that make gentlemen drivers happy. And whilst that means that it can win the Spa 24 Hours, as it did last year in the hands of Come To You Racing, it might not be as friendly for the amateur drivers. Here are some of our gentlemen getting their helmets on, getting themselves prepared for the pit window. Of course, they'll get themselves ready at the start of the window because if anything happens out on circuit, then they can dive into the pits as and when, and the driver is ready for you. Always have a driver ready for you. See that also at the start of long endurance races. During those first couple of laps, where there's a high chance that you might have to make a pit stop because you've had an incident, then there's a driver ready with a helmet, with gloves on, to jump in the car and do a driver change if needed. Give yourself options. Sasahara, another best lap for him. 1:20.1 now. 0.6 of a second faster than everybody else. And the gap extends to that battle that we were following, Motojima, Kawabata. It's actually diluted slightly, so 8 seconds to Motojima, but Kawabata 1.5 back and Kobayashi 2.7 back now. This is why we are hunting around for other battles and why we are looking at the 666 of Fujinami in 7th position. He is chasing the Lexus. On board then with our leader, Sasahara. Fastest lap of the race, now down to a 120s dead, just a tenth off what he managed in race 1 as the fuel load burns down, but the tyres are still good for him. Let's see how he manages this Sugo circuit. Again, nice and smooth with the inputs. The circuit's good as well. It's nice and smooth itself. But he's not fighting that car. There's not a lot of understeer, oversteer. He's just doing what he needs to do to build that gap, knowing that it's all going to be undone by success penalty. But also, a clean track ahead of him. Not too much traffic to sort out. There's that arcing first 2 turns. You saw the steering wheel basically didn't move, did it? It shows the angle in which he wanted the steering to do, and then left it. Closest battle on circuit, well, most places gained from the Lexus, but that, I understand why we show this graphic, but obviously if you start at the back of the field, you are going to be the one that gains the most places. So 11 gained by the Lexus because it started last. However, in terms of absolute outright pace, right now, racing the 666 77 racing Porsche that was in the wall at the first turn. So that then tells you a different story, doesn't it? Say, Cosolino already up the road, already passed, and 10 seconds back from the battle that we were following at the start of the race. So effectively, our top 4 were the cars not involved in the skirmish. 5th position Cosolino was, and he's within 10 seconds of that battle now. That proves just how strong Kay has been in this race. He hasn't been setting purple sectors on our timing screens, but he has been there and thereabouts and pretty close to the pace of Sasahara and our leader. What could have been then for the 45. And it's going to hurt even more when they have to make their compulsory pit stop and take that success penalty. The pits are open, and if you are if you're any of the cars you're able to pit, we may see some of the AMs come in early. That will just offset them slightly, but that's a strategic option really only available to car 1, car 71, car 360, our GTC category cars, and K-Tunes Racing in there at 97. I would have said they probably, if I'm going to predict, it would be 97 that would come in first. Window open then. Race control announces. Looks like it's a little bit early. Late. Not quite sure why it's now been announced. Over the brow of the hill then. And there we go. Prediction right. 97, our first pit visitor. And that means that Betty Chen will be making way for Yoshi Nagai. Comes to a stop. The pit stop's timed. Tiger Wu also coming to the pits because he's swapping with himself. So in theory, every pit stop should be the same. Here is Tiger Wu. Has to go behind the pit line and then come back out. So there is a little bit of jogging going on. I wasn't sure whether he just had to step away from the car, but no, he actually does have to go back into the garage and back out again. But ultimately, because the pit stop is timed at 90 seconds, as a basis pit stop, in theory, and this is the weird thing about race 1, in theory everybody should just done a 90-second pit stop and nothing should have changed, but so much did, with some confusion. The GT4s, by the way, actually have a longer pit stop. They are pitting for just over 2 minutes. That is because they have 5 spoke wheel nuts, and it takes more time to change those tyres. And so to allow them to do that safely without rushing and potentially having an issue, there is more time given to GT4. No central wheel nut. Although some do, it's not all GT4 cars that have 5 or 4 spoke. And I do remember, for instance, the McLaren with a single wheel nut, as you would expect to see on most all race cars. It's funny how road cars went away from that. If you look at many a classic car, they had a single nut in the centre. You had to get a rubber mallet out to undo it. But presumably for ease of home changing, going to the 4 or 5 nuts was a better solution. But in the racing world, that single central nut is where they're at. Oh, got a car off. A car off in the gravel, and it's 45. It's Kay Cozzolino. Cozzolino is off, and this is going to be a safety car. And this is a bad moment to call the safety car because we have had some cars already pit. Now, what can race control do here? Everybody yet to pit, but a few cars pitting. All the AMs pitting, and now K-Tunes directly coming into the pits, the 98. And we go full course yellow. Now, in other championships, a full course yellow would mean pits shut. Because Takagi decided to start doing this under green flag conditions, it is going to slightly go against them, I think. You think about this, yes, they started their pit stop under green flag, so everybody going faster on track. Had they waited to the full course yellow, then they would have benefited. So I think they're going to lose out, but that's a real shame for Cozzolino. I think that's the final turn, isn't it? I wonder whether there was contact. It's gone off quite early in the turn, by the looks of things. We go full course yellow, and this is going to then mean and allow everybody to pit under full course yellow, exactly like we saw in this morning's race. In comes the leader then. Don't forget, they still have the penalty to serve, that success penalty from race 1. So their pit stop should be 105 seconds long. For Sasahara, the 90-second minimum plus the 15-second. We're not going to see a pit stop from Ponos Racing, I'm afraid, because they're in the gravel trap. But they had a success penalty to their name, as did in 5 seconds extra for Cornez Ferrari. That should play into the hands of both the 18 and the 24. Max Racing with no penalty. Now, I said that car was orange. And the reason I said that car was orange is because my spotter's guide makes it look like it's orange, but it's red, isn't it? Apologies to Max Racing. Now the Lexus comes in. Everybody basically now making their pit stop. And that's good news for race control, because it means that they can quickly get themselves into safety car mode as and when they need to. Now, be careful with unsafe releases. There goes the 24. Let's safely back into the race and should be ahead of the 9. No, maybe the advantage was that great before the pit stop. It was 17 seconds before the pit stop, so it's down to just 2 seconds in theory. But number 9, I think, holds on to the lead of the race despite the success penalty. Good work, therefore, from Ukyo Sasahara. That man there has worked really hard in that first session. Here comes the 666 Porsche leaving pit lane. 296 should slip behind the 18, I would have thought. We'll wait to see the timing correct itself once we get to the first timing sector. That's how it works. And Kay's been really unlucky there. That gravel trap is pretty much a Ferrari length long, isn't it? It's not much more than that, but he is buried deep. And let's have a look now at what happened. On board then. Turns in. Was that contact? No, it wasn't, because there's nobody around, but that was very odd. Hang on. What's the wheel doing down there? I think he's lost his wheel. And that's why the car spun around. We saw the wheel heading off on its own. And yes, there was contact with the wall, but the contact with the wall was forward in. And it seems unlikely that the wheel would have headed off in that direction had there been contact. And usually we don't see wheels detach themselves from hubs in that sense. So I think Kay an excuse here, but I think his wheel came off. Either a hub failure or a nut failure. Very unusual to have a car lose a wheel so late into the stint. Usually it happens directly after a pit stop because it hasn't been tightened correctly. Not 25 minutes into the stint. Right, Emily's gone down to the pits, and let's hear from her.
ご自身のスティントを終えました本島優也選手にお話聞いていきたいと思います。レースは悔しかった分、今のスティント素晴らしかったんじゃないでしょうか。
そうですね、展開的にはアップガレージの前に出れたんで、本当にビンゴに頑張って追いつくだけだったんですけど、思いのほかペースが速くて、追いつけなかったのはちょっと悔しいですね。
So yes, he is very happy with the overtake that he made with Up Garage, but Bingo Racing, the pace is very fast, so we're going to really try hard to catch up with him. あとは相方に託すだけですね。
そうですね。タイヤも交換しましたし、内田選手、特にレース強いので、知ってます。
我々も信じてます。頑張ってください。
ありがとうございます。
So they've changed the tires to new tires. Uchida, right now on the car, he's a very strong driver. We have full hope in him, so best of luck to him. Back to you.
And look what is happening out on circuit. The leader of the race, the number 9 machine, is having to do this full course yellow stuck behind the GT4 car. Now, GT3 cars have a speed button. And this might not matter too much because I've just reminded myself that there's a Toyota Supra safety car coming. But if we weren't going safety car, then that Toyota Supra GT4 car from Toyota Gazoo Racing Indonesia, that has a full course yellow setting, which is a couple of kilometers below where you need to be for safety, because you have to set it manually. Whereas the GT3 cars have a different way of setting their speed limiter, and they can be much closer to the limit that they need to be. So as you can see here, the number 9 giving the hurry up to the 39, and the safety car wants to try and get between the two of them here, because ultimately the 39 is going that whole lap back, and there we go. They've worked out what needs to be done, and a good example there of a GT4 race car Supra versus the road-going version. They really don't look very different, do they? The GT4 car is built around the road-going version of the car. The GT3 car is a bespoke race car. Even though it's made to look like a Ferrari 296, it hasn't come from a Ferrari 296, although all GT4 cars have.
放送席、ここで45号車ポノスレーシングに関する情報をお伝えいたします。1周目での、接触といいますか、クラッシュがあった際にですね、非常にタイヤへのダメージが大きかったみたいで、最終コーナーで先ほどクラッシュした際はやはりタイヤの影響が大きかったというお話を聞くことができました。最終コーナーということでね、衝撃も大きかったと思うんですけれども、頸骨離の選手のお体自体は大丈夫です。マシンはちょっとダメージ深そうですね。以上です。So, car number 45, Ponos Racing. I heard from the engineer that the tyre damages from the first lap was kind of heavy, and so at the final corner they had a very hard crash. Now Kay's completely okay physically, but there is going to be some damages at the car. Back to you.
Doubt it hit the tyre barrier. The question slightly, and only Kay probably is going to be able to tell you, is why? Two wheels on the right-hand side of that Ferrari, pretty badly damaged front end, and we're not going to quite get a chance to see the left-hand tyres, but I think he's lost the rear left tyre as he's come through. Mr. Uematsu. Oh, that's not Mr. Uematsu. That is Mr. Suzuki, isn't it? The two of them, just a ball of joy. Absolutely loving being part of this paddock. We now go into safety car conditions. So that allows the Toyota Supra GT4 car from Toyota Gazoo Racing Indonesia to go. He gets the flashers saying, go on, off you go. You need to go and do a full lap to catch up to the tail of this crocodile of GT3 cars, and finally that's what he does. But all of those advantages made by the pro drivers in the first part of the race now totally undone. We almost go back to a reset. I wonder how many. Here's a stat for somebody to work out. How many safety cars, periods, on average do we have across, like for instance, GT World Challenge Asia? How many races actually feature a safety car? Because it must be pretty high. Replay of the start of the race once again. 4 wide into turn 1 was never going to happen. 1, 2, 3, 4 GT3 cars damaged at that first corner. Maizawa Racing, the car that really, actually, maybe I was being a bit harsh on the 555 because he is trying to get alongside 296, and it's the 296 that's moving over on him. Okay, that would be his argument. It does go to the stewards, and if there is an investigation, we haven't seen if there is. Yeah, the drive-through penalty was given to car 555 for presumably for contact. Unfortunately, the steward's message, being a Japan Cup race, is in Japanese, but. The results, the highlights so far of the spin, the battles on track in part 1 of the race. Stop. And now we have a safety car. We reset back to row. In the number 9, Uchida in the 24, Suzuki in the 296, Akita in the 18, Banksy in the 666, Suenaga in the Lexus 96, Yamawaki in the Ferrari 98. Those are your pro AM. With now the AM competitor Uematsu in 8th position. Actually, could get a good result here because he's racing against his contemporary AM drivers. The run-up Nissan next, ahead of the Akiland Mercedes. So that's a change in the GT3 AM category. But effectively, all 10 cars at the head of the field have AM drivers in it. So, yes, they're in different classes. The number 1 Ferrari, for instance, versus Yamawaki in the 98 Ferrari. But they are AM drivers. Overall leader then, Takai, Bingo Racing. So used to seeing that driver in the Corvette. But now in a partnership with LM Corsa in a Ferrari for this year. Ferrari, Mercedes, Ferrari, Porsche, Lexus, Ferrari. Which is the 488 Ferrari. I thought we had one 488 entered. I don't think we do. It was supposed to be the car guy car. Yes, it is. Yeah, okay. Number 66 is a slightly older Ferrari. And that is a car that didn't start this race at all. So there's a story I completely failed to tell you about. Apologies. Problems for car guy and their older Ferrari in GT3 AM means we've just got 3 GT3 AMs. They retired out of race 1 and they didn't get back to join us in this second race. Right, off we go then. Back to green flag conditions. We've got a GT4 car in the middle of the pack, and that is going to cause a few issues for the GT3s. We've got 4 cars at the head of the field clear, and there's that side-by-side for third position. I think it is. That will be between No, I don't think that is significant, is it? We've got a car out of position there. Oh, and down the inside, though. Uchida takes the lead of the race from Takai. The Mercedes to the head of the field. Nice and aggressive. Really hard to overtake around this Sugo circuit. But when you catch your rival napping, you can do it. And that's what he's done. And now the 9 goes defensive, Takai, to try and prevent Suzuki from doing the same thing. All going the way of Bingo Racing in the early part of the race, but really aggressive and nice move from Uchida. That is the number 1 machine of our AM leader. Didn't realise that they were that far back, a whole lap back. But even they go past Takai. Not up to speed in the Ferrari here in these first couple of laps. Could he drop down to third position? Big gap then to the 4th spot, 3.5 seconds. They had that GT4 car in front of them at the restart, and that's what's caused the big gap. Akita in 4th, Banksy in 5th. Over the line, though, we're watching the battle for third position. Turns in early. Takai claims that apex at turn 1, prevents Suzuki from coming up the inside of him. Uchida already with a 2.5 second advantage at the head of the field, and that is why Suzuki needs to clear Takai as quickly as possible. He cannot afford to let Uchida in the Max Racing Mercedes get away. Takai is going to be driving that Ferrari, watching the mirrors. He is going to be so concerned about what's going on behind. He needs not to be. He needs to drive forward. He needs to concentrate on his racing lines, his performance. But look, turning in early, not using all of the road, that's going to slow him up, and that is also going to put him under more pressure from Suzuki. He's doing that to put Suzuki off from going up the inside. You turn in early, you're shutting the door. Through this final turn, holding a tighter line is Suzuki in the 296. Now lets it run out, opens the steering to gain as much top speed as possible, sits under the slipstream Ferrari versus Ferrari. Big defence though from Takai into turn 1. Is there a switchback possible? No, not quite. From the 296 machine. Bingo Racing versus Cornez Racing here. Pace still good though, because Akita in 4th position, now 6 seconds back from this, so not too much of a worry to lose more positions. But I tell you what, Suzuki having to be really creative here around the back end of the circuit. Very little overtaking, and he's gone and cut the grass there. Got a nice little slide on. And now the gap surely is going to be coming down. Now the gap to Akita surely is going to be less than 6 seconds, because I saw him in the back of shot. The more these laps tick down, the more that Takai gets comfortable, the more that he knows that he's equal to Suzuki, and it seems to be the case, because now the gap between the two is widening, and that is why Takai was being so aggressive in his defence. He now doesn't have to worry about his mirrors. He doesn't have to worry about a defensive line into turn 1. He can concentrate on maximising lap time. 1:22.7 for Ochida, plays a 1:24.0, so well over a second faster is Ochida. And actually on that last lap, Suzuki half a second slower again, but Akita in 4th position has just halved the gap again, so it's gone from 6 down to 3.7. That's why we can see him in the back of shot. A huge jump in time. And even Banksy in the Porsche behind him, running faster than these two right now. There's our leader. Then we've got the leader of AM a lap down. The headlights glowing from our 2nd and 3rd position Ferraris. With just under 10 minutes remaining of this race 2 in Sugo. Still so much potential for change. Feel as though this lap is better from Takai. We'll get it confirmed as they come across the line, but I feel as though he was concentrating more on just getting a better lap time. But now he might have to defend again, because here comes Suzuki. Over the line. Lap time is 3.3, so it is faster. But it was a 22.9 from Suzuki. 0.4 of a second faster. On board then with the 9. Remember earlier when we were on board with the 9, how smooth we saw the inputs from Sasahara. Once you feel pressure, once you feel as though you need to push, that's when that steering wheel starts shuddering. That's when the inputs become less clean. Look at that. Lots of micro inputs into the steering wheel. And that is because he's got 296 breathing down his neck, taking chunks of time out of him. Akita on the last lap still was able to take time out, but not as big a chunk as we saw a lap before. 3 seconds the gap between the 18 and this little battle. He'll do it again though, because even in the middle sector, he's taken a big chunk out of time. So still closing in. Fancies himself a podium. Suzuki not quite close enough this time to make a move on Takai. I tell you what, this Sugo circuit, you really need to work out how to overtake here, because it is not easy. It's very easy to defend into turn 1. That's the best overtaking opportunity, but if the driver in front defends, then really hard to get by, because it's a double apex right-hander. You can't hang it around the outside, because you're just going to be hung out to dry, as we saw from the 18 when they tried that in race 1. We've got 3 cars ahead. Maybe traffic is going to help them. Maybe the 39 GT4 car if somehow Suzuki can position Takai, box him in behind the GT4, maybe there's the opportunity to get by. Have they caught the GT4 in an awkward position? Yes, they have. Doesn't get out the way there. Surely be able to depose of him now. They do. Both of them up the inside there into the final turn. But that was awkward. And look how much closer Suzuki is to Takai. This is his best opportunity for a while now. Climb up the hill, over the brow, over the start and finishing line. But actually a good exit from Takai onto the finishing line. And again, no opportunity for Suzuki to get through. However, look, there's a yellow Ferrari now joining the party, just a second back. Akita catching the 39 in obviously a very comfortable position for him. And he takes another big chunk of time out of this battle for second. Meanwhile, Uchida 5.3 up the road. Much like we saw from Bingo Racing in race 1, nothing that anybody can do about the Max Racing Mercedes. 3 for second though. 5 minutes remaining. The lights get flashy from Akita. I can go faster than you two. Yes. There's one thing catching, there's another thing passing. Cliche. Whoa, the Ferrari's off. He's pushed too hard. Is he into the wall? Yes, he is into the wall. That's going to be damage to the rear left quarter. And we've seen that Ferrari on the edge. We saw it this morning in the hands of Akita. We saw Kobayashi struggling in the early part of the race. And he's off again. And that could mean the end of our race. One last opportunity perhaps for Suzuki to dive up the inside. No space there. We're going to have to surely cover that incident with a full course yellow. Race control will just be waiting to see if Akita can get himself running under his own steam before they throw any sort of full course yellow. Just depends on how big that hit was into the Armco barrier. No racing driver wants. Oh, he has got out the car. So I was about to say no driver wants to walk back to the pits. But let's have a look again. Turns in. Absolutely okay there. It's there where he's just missed, just run a little bit deep, missed the apex. And so easy to have an incident around this Sugo racetrack. Double waved yellows. We've got 3.5 minutes remaining, and I don't think race control have got much option here. He's in a pretty dangerous position if anybody else makes that same mistake. Let's see though. 3 minutes and 20 seconds remaining of the race. Traffic to contend with for our second position battle again. Looks like more cars closing in. There's Banksy closing in now in the Porsche. So Uchida with some traffic to contend with. Takai and Suzuki locked in. This Banksy closing in by 2.2 seconds. There he is coming through the shot. And Suenaga has lost a position in the Lexus to Yamawaki in the Ferrari. The two K-Tunes cars have swapped positions for 5th position. Lights ablaze. We are going to cover that car under full course yellow. It'll be around this area where they will not be able to overtake, although it's not really an overtaking opportunity. There is the yellow Ferrari. Great that we are continuing to race. Great that race control believe that it is safe enough to do so. And it leaves the opportunity for us to see a change in this second position battle that has been giving us the potential for change all the way through the second half of the race. But ultimately, the Sugo circuit not lending itself to an opportunity. Meanwhile, Uchida has backed off a bit. over the last couple of laps. His gap down to 3.7 seconds. Just settling into bringing that Mercedes home, I think. Got 2 laps to do so. 2 more laps. I have to say, big credit to Uematsu in the number 1, who has been mirroring what he has managed. Again, another look from the 296. Was there an overlap there? Oh, that was probably a little bit over optimistic. But now the Porsche's with him. He needs to get creative. If a failed attempt like that happens again, he could lose a position, could drop out of the podium and hand it to Banksy. We're on to the final lap now. And once again, the camera position makes it look like it's tight for second, but as we get down to the braking zone at turn 1, it never seems to work out. Wait to the top of shot. Here we go. Our last lap dive from the 296, but again, not committed enough down the inside, and perhaps that is the last opportunity. A few more touches on the brake pedal from the 9. Takai being really, really hassled. He goes super defensive into turn 4. I don't know where he thought that 296 was going to go into turn 4. But big hassle here for the final podium spots. There is our leader. They are the 2 leaders. In fact, the Pro-Am and the Am leaders together on track, 1 lap apart. This is always a good overtaking opportunity, but again, the number 9 turns in early. Banksy goes super wide, and that's his day done. And there's just no more opportunities now, I'm afraid. We thought it might happen, but the creativity not there for Suzuki. Meanwhile, Max Racing, a new name to the Japan Cup and a new victor in Japan Cup. Uchida and Motojima take race 2 victory here in Sugo. A fascinating battle to the flag for 2nd and 3rd. Takai for Bingo Racing, Suzuki for Cornez Racing. That will round out your podium. Banksy missing out for 7-7 in 4th spot. And I'm afraid we lost Maezawa Racing. We lost Hono's Racing. If that loose wheel was linked to the start of the race contact. Akita, we also saw retire out of the race. Just getting overexcited by the opportunity to get himself up into 2nd spot. Just the last couple of cars to get over the line, but we have our class winners. Max Racing take victory. Machina take GT3 Am victory once again. Those 2 running together on circuit, and a great second stint from Uematsu. And then in GT4, the Toyota Gazoo Racing Supra taking victory there, uncontested really. Tiger Wu, winner of GTC. And that is all of our cars now with the checkered flag. Look how close it was. 0.0121 of a second between Takai and Suzuki. He had a good run, didn't he, Suzuki? Ultimately, just needed to find a different way to make that pass work. Uchida rolls down pit lane. As I say, this team used to Super GT, not racing last year, finding a new challenge for themselves. And indeed, challenge accepted and challenge mastered. Happy days at Max Racing. Great first stint for Mokujima. Possibly a missed opportunity in race one because of their, well, I'm going to put it down to inexperience in the championship. But in race two, they've righted all of the wrongs, had the pace when they needed it, helped a little bit by the safety car. There is no doubt about that. But actually, don't forget that when they came out after pit stops, after the 9 had taken its extra 15 seconds in that pit stop, there was only 2 seconds separating the 9 and the 24. So even though we were under safety car conditions eventually, had we not had that safety car, I think the 24 would still have been able to get by the 9. Because in the end, the gap was 5.6 seconds, and there's no doubt that Uchida was managing that at the end of the race. Emily's down there. Let's hear from our winners.
さあドラマチックな優勝劇を見せてくれましたのはカーナンバー24マックスレーシング。午前中のねレース1の悔しさを晴らすようなそんな素晴らしい、せっかくですのでご一緒にいかがですか。まずはねドライバーにお話聞いていきたいと思いますけれども、田島選手優勝おめでとうございます。
ありがとうございます。いや内田さんしびれる走りで本当に僕が助けられました。本当に嬉しいです。ありがとうございます。
そして内田選手、いや本当にしびれました。素晴らしかったです。
そうですね、もうワンチャンスをものにしようと思って狙っていたので良かったです、本当に。はい。
さあそしてね改めて、飯田さんにもお話聞いていきたいと思うんですけれども、いかがでしたか。
いや今年のジャパンカップねすごくレベルも上がってますし、うちも新しいチームで、2人のドライバー、僕は一番速いと思ってるんですけども、なかなか厳しい戦いが続くと思います。ただ僕らもちょっとねいろんなミスをしてここまで来てやっと1位取り返したんで、本当に今日は嬉しいです。ありがとうございます。
本当にお疲れ様でした。そしておめでとうございます。So Motojima was talking about how wonderful, how brilliant his partner's lap was, and the partner Uchida after the SC. He full concentrated and he's really happy with the result. And the team manager himself, he was talking about the race one earlier. Because of the team's mistake, he made a hard time for the drivers, but hard work paid off and he is super proud of the team. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Emily. Yeah, lots of smiles down there. Why not? One of the best circuits out there, Sugo. A real proper challenge for the drivers, no doubt about that. And some good, hard, fair racing as our first weekend of Japan Cup comes to a close. It's the only weekend where they race on their own. Next round in Fuji. And let's go now back down to
非常に激しい展開でした、スゴのレース2です。まずは笹原選手から、ご自身のスティント、振り返っていただけますでしょうか。
はい、チームが素晴らしい車を用意してくれたので、うまくスタートを切って、1コーナーを守るっていうことに徹してました。その後はペースいいのは分かっていたので、とにかくサクセスペナルティ分は15秒はもうなんとか稼ぎ切ろうと思って、もう毎週予選のようにプッシュしてました。本当15秒なんとか稼ぎたかったんですけど、でもピット出た時はギリギリ前にいたのかな。ということで、なんとか自分のスティントはうまく仕事はこなせたんですけど、最終的なリザルトは2位だったということで、ちょっとチームとして、武井選手にはちょっと迷惑かけるような状況になっちゃったんで、もっとチームとして連携を取ってやらないと、しっかり勝てないなっていうのは思いましたし、でもそんな状況の中でも武井選手が必死に抑えてくれて、守ってくれたこの2位は本当に貴重な2位だと思うんで、次につなげたいと思います。
お疲れ様でした。武井選手も悔しい思いもたくさんあるかと思いますけれども、本当にブロッキング見てるとワクワクさせていただきました。今のお気持ちを聞かせていただけますか。
ちょっとタイヤ無交換作戦が、僕にはちょっと厳しかったのと、あとはちょっとトラブルがあって、自分がドライビングに最初全く集中できなくて、そこで、内田選手に刺されたのはもう、ちょっと悔しいは悔しいんですけど、本当 4位とか5位じゃなくて2位を守れたということはまだチャンピオンシップに対しては好発進なんで、あとは僕に起きたトラブルを次までに、ないようにもう一回チームでミーティングしてしっかり次の戦いに臨みたいと思ってます。
わかりました。お疲れ様でした。
Okay,
So I'd like to talk about what they were talking about. Ukyo Sasahara, when he was talking about his lap, he knew there was going to be a 15 penalties, success penalty, so he pushed like it was qualifying each lap. He thought he did his best, but when he came inside to the pit, there was some issues with the tire changes, and they decided finally to go without change the tires. And when it changed to the stint, to Takei's stint, obviously he couldn't find the pace, and there was a few mistakes. They are very disappointed with the overcomings, but still, landing in P2, when you think about the championship, it is a positive result. They'll do their best on the next race. Back to you.
Great little detail there that we didn't realise during the race. So that number 9 was half an hour worse on tyres than the cars around him. That explains a lot as to why the pace wasn't there for the 9. And therefore, yeah, did a great job of staying in second position. Lots and lots of defensive. Emily's sweeping up all those interviews. Let's go back down to her.
Okay then, so we have the winner of the AM class. Congratulations on your class victory. How are you feeling about it now?
Thank you very much. This is the race is in my life is first time Hachimete in GT series, and I really enjoy this race, and I have very nice pace and I get very good start, so really fun. I very enjoy this race. I will maybe keep Fujian. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. We can feel your excitement. お疲れ様でした。
お疲れ様でした。
はい、タイガー選手なんですけれども、なんとですね、今大会のスゴのジャパンカップがレース初めての参加だそうで、本当になかなか厳しいこともたくさんあったんですけれども、非常に楽しむことができた。そして今回の経験を糧にこれからもレース活動をしっかりと続けていきたいというね、とても楽しんだ様子を伝えていただくことができました。また次戦の走りも楽しみにしたいと思います。以上です。
That is it then for our races in Sugo. Just the podium ceremonies to come. Of course, we celebrate the overall result, but all of the different class results that we have. Effectively, any of our SRO run events are usually 3 or 4 races within a single race. And whilst we always get excited about the winner overall at the top of the table, there is also, for the focus of the other drivers, a completely separate race for them. We celebrate all of them. And there are our 5 separate races in Japan Cup this year. GT3 AM won by Team Machina, with GT3 Pro-Am winners, the overall winners of the race. GT4 Silver Am, the 39 taking victory there. Just the one GT4 AM, therefore K-Tunes are the winners. And GTC, which has got an AM category, Tiger Wu winning that one. The overall then just a 10th between second and third position, and 7 back. 7-7, fourth, 7 back from the lead. Check this out if you missed race 1. This is cool. Again, social media, clip that up and get it viral. Have you ever seen anything like it? I've never. The world of motorsport, of walking onto a podium, I know we have moved on and made all kinds of creativities and differences, but I have never seen a poster that says Wham on it. Who came up with that idea? Who is guilty? Because actually it's genius and I love it. We've seen at the Mexican Grand Prix, for instance, the lift that lifts the car and driver up. I think that also happens at the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Walking across bridges to get to a podium, so you're walking over the fans. There's another idea that has been done and dusted a few times now. But never in my life have I seen the winner of a motor race bust through a piece of paper that says "Wham" on it in the center of a podium. Proud sponsor Dixell, providing the trophies to our top three, and long-term partner of our activities out in Asia. Max Racing, Bingo Racing with Ellen Corsa, and Corners Racing, our top three. Always nice to see the celebrations here on the podiums in Japan. They go full 100% commitment with their champagne spraying. And this is how the result after two races here in Sugo looks after our opening weekend. Championship lead is led by Bingo Racing, 43 points, 7 ahead of Max Racing. And they are further 5 ahead of Corners Racing, with the 7-7 Racing team in 4th position, Ponos 5th, K-Tunes 98 ahead of K-Tunes 96. Head scratching, I think they will be doing, and there is so much more potential in the number 18 team up garage with ACR than 10 points suggest. Just got to keep that car on the track. Next of our podiums, double victory for Team Machina. And we've got extra smiles and extra personnel on their top step of the podium. Founder of Dixell presenting the trophies. Oh, what happened to the baby? It didn't last very long. It suddenly disappeared. I think they have a lot of fun at Team Machina. There's always smiles on Uematsu and Suzuki's faces. And they have taken, not only have they taken a double victory, but that second race, that second stint from Uematsu. Okay, the leader of our race in total was pacing it. There's no doubt that Uchida was not at flat-out capacity, but the number one, Uematsu, was equal to him. And okay, that is because they were AMS versus AMS, but it does prove that in the right circumstances, an AM pairing could win overall. Land in second, run up the court, dropping to third. In the first end, it was the other way around, wasn't it? But obviously, by the end, the aging Nissan losing out to the pretty old Mercedes, to be fair. Lovely stuff for Team Machina. Familiar surroundings for the Japan Cup moving forward. Fuji next time out. 25 cars entered in Japan Cup. 32 capacity for the GT World Challenge Asia. So if you're watching this as a fan, then make yourself available for the 13th of July. Get yourself to the Mount Fuji circuit because it is going to be a festival of GT3 racing. There is no doubt. If you're a driver and you fancy a go in Japan Cup, I'm going to say there's potentially still space. If you are of the right inclination, get yourself in touch with SRO and come racing with us. The team up garage, even down, celebrating these podiums. Even if they retired out the race, there is still that celebration and honour to be celebrating the achievements of your rivals. I do really like that. So, into GT4 land, and K-Tunes Racing. The only fully AM lineup. And then we have the Sunrise Boulevard Porsche, Zenko RS Garage with Sunrise Boulevard, the full title. And Toyota Gazoo Racing, a double victory for the Supra. Manopo and Nonaka. What they need to get is they need to get themselves a Lexus and get themselves progressing up into GT3. I know that's easier said than done, but they have been a stalwart in GT4 for as long as I can remember, so that's the last 3 years. Certainly, if you can get 3 seasons out of your same car, then that becomes cheaper and cheaper racing, doesn't it? But you get the feeling that Manopo and Nonaka could do something pretty special. There's our 3 GT4 category cars. And the champagne flies once again in Sugo for our GT4 category cars. They may look slow in comparison to GT3, but they are as much on the limit as our GT3 compatriots, and a very different style of driving as well. The GT4 with far less aero, so far more effect. You need to generate your grip in a completely separate manner. Tell you what, good proper spraying champagne this in Sugo. Seems to work very well. Either that or all of our Japanese drivers are well versed in making it happen, but it does seem to fly, doesn't it? One more podium then, and that is the High Point Racing and Bingo Racing GTC category. GTC category for the Cup cars. We know how many Cup cars are knocking around the world, and of course you also have the situation as High Point Racing are utilizing, where the Carrera Cup progresses into a new Evo of car, and so it makes the older car obsolete. Then you just have nowhere to go racing with it. But this GTC category opens up that opportunity to use the old 991 version to come racing, and that is exactly what High Point have done. And the progression in Cup cars is not massive. It's not like you're never going to beat a 991 with a 992. Yes, there are advantages, of course there are, but it is not completely crazy. There's Tiger Woo. I love that his overall was just as mental as his livery on his car. But I think we've seen in Europe that style of category of racing, especially utilising the Carrera Cup car, has really exploded over the last couple of years. Thinking about one particular championship where now they run their own race specifically for Cup cars and Cup cars only, because there is that many. They're not just a category in the endurance race, they are their own race. There's plenty of opportunity over in Japan for that to happen. Multi-class racing versus single make racing. Is that more or less attractive to the driver? Especially when you're in the middle. Sunny skies to race 2 and action already at turn 1. The pro drivers having this 4-way accident going into the first turn. They all initially looked like they got away with it, but at the end of the first lap, the Maezawa car, which is the one we're riding on board with right now, found itself with bent suspension and unfortunately a retirement. The other three, whilst delayed, were able to continue in the race. At the head of the field, Bingo Racing, race 1 victors, with Uko Sasahara trying to make a gap. Just before the pit window opened, a big lose for Kei Cozzolino. He lost his rear left wheel, in fact, and that caused full course yellow and meant everybody came into pit at the same time. No mistake like we saw in race 1 with longer than needed pit stops. And so when we went back to green flag racing, the order was very similar to what it had been pre the pit stop, unlike in race 1. 15 seconds absorbed the success penalty for Bingo Racing from that victory in race 1. And so after the safety car period, we went back to racing slightly wide from Takai, and through went Max Racing's Uchida into the lead. Turned out Takai actually hadn't been able to change tyres in the pit stop, but with an issue with that car. And so Bingo Racing nursing a car with only a single set of tyres through the whole hour race. We then had team up Garage Road with 5 minutes remaining. They were chasing down a possible second position when that happened. In the end though, over the line, Max Racing taking victory in race 2. Very close to second between Bingo Racing, but they held on to get the second spot. It was Uchida and Moshijima taking victory. Well, join us in Fuji, the middle of July, for the second weekend of Japan Cup and a GT World Challenge Power Tour. See you then.